So I just did a video on my tattoo kit on Friday on my YouTube if you want a more in-depth synopsis of everything, but I'll show you what I used to tattoo. This is my tattoo pen. I got it from allthingsbunny.com and I really like it, to be honest. It fits nice in my hand, it works well with how shaky I am, and then also it's really easy to just change out the batteries. It's one of the more affordable options I've seen, and you can get all of the replacement supplies on allthingsbunny.com. I will say there's a bit of a learning curve on it. I did botch my first tattoo using it because I bent the needle part on the bottom of my inkwell, so I have figured out that if I'm going to dip into my inkwell to turn it off first. But we're all human, right? So I've liked it so far, and it's really easy just to turn on and off. So yeah, go check out allthingsbunny.com, and you can even choose the color of your handle. So this is my mama Sadie, and as you can see, she is starting to pull hair. So this means that within the next day or so, she is going to be having her babies. So normally rabbits will pull their fur like this to make their nest, and they pull it from their dewlap area normally. She's getting a little creative with where she's pulling it on her stomach a bit. But even with them pulling fur like this, you actually won't see those patches most of the time. My mini Rex mamas normally build amazing fur nests to where I don't need to worry about them. But Sadie is a first-time mom, so I have been worrying about her. But it looks like she's going to do a great job. So I keep coming out to check on my new mamas, and Sadie's just chilling and waiting, but she has her fur nest built, and she just looks totally done with being pregnant. So hopefully, next time I come out to check, she has some babies. But I'm gonna go check on our other girls real quick that are pregnant as well. Y'all, Mama gave birth in the middle of the day, which is the weirdest thing. Look at the tiny little beans! First time Mama had 4 little babies. They are very small, but that's kind of to be expected because these are mini Rex. We do have one very light colored baby, it looks like. I'm hoping that's a blue-eyed white, but we'll see in the next couple weeks. And then the rest are a little darker. I bred her to a lilac otter, so I wouldn't be surprised if those were either otters or of some type, or if they were casters. Alright, so I'm going to talk about something. It might upset some people. I think it's going to be a great conversation to have. With that being said, let's keep it kind of like nice in the comment section. We can be respectful and disagree, but don't be jackasses. So let's talk about peanuts. If you are raising a dwarf breed, there is a chance in your litters that you could get peanuts. Peanuts have a double dwarf gene from their parents and in no case will survive to adulthood. Most of the time, peanuts only live till the first 3 or 4 days. They might even live long enough to get hair or open their eyes, but peanuts always die. If somebody has said that they had a peanut survive to adulthood, I'm sorry, that's not true. They are either a runt or a dwarf, but they are not a double dwarf true peanut. You can tell an animal is a peanut because they are going to be a very, very small size. They're going to have a peanut-shaped head with very tiny ears, normally a quarter of the size of normal ears on a baby bunny. They're going to have bulging eyes, nose, and butt. With that being said, the question is, do we allow nature to take its course, or do we, as rabbit breeders, ethically euthanize the animal? In my breeding program, if I think something is a peanut, I might give it a day to kind of verify that I am correct, but in most cases, once I figure out it's a peanut, I will euthanize it. In my opinion, it's not fair to that animal to make it live out its life when it's going to die anyway. Genetically speaking, it is not made to survive. It is going to die anyway, and I want to keep the suffering of that animal as short as possible. With that being said, if you are running a breeding program, especially with dwarf breed rabbits, that is going to be your decision on what you want to do. Some people let nature take its course. Some people even provide supplemental feedings to make the animal as comfortable as possible. In my opinion, I think that's a lot of emotional baggage to put on a person. So if you are running a breeding program, do what is best for your breeding program and decide what you want to do. But understand that if you are breeding dwarf breeds, more than likely, some point in your breedings, you are going to end up with a peanut double dwarf. So when it comes to simple terms, not good at that because I'm just not. So instead of simple terms, I have a new series called Bunny Crash Course 101, where I try to explain to you all of the weird words I use. So let's hop into it. Let's start off simple. We have doe, buck, and kit. Buck is simply a boy, doe is a girl, and kits are babies. So you have a couple of kittens that don't seem like they're eating well, they're failing to thrive. What do? There are two schools of thought when it comes to failure to thrive, kittens or runts. One is to let nature take its course and let them figure it out. And the other is to use supplemental milk. Despite my somewhat hard exterior, I am definitely in the second category. If I see that a kit is falling behind its siblings, I definitely step in and start giving supplemental milk to try to perk them up, to give them a fighting chance. It might be a bad habit of mine. There are a couple ways you can do this. You can do this with goat's milk, or you can make your own milk. The way I do it is I take kitten milk, heavy whipping cream, Cairo syrup, and a probiotic and crush it up and mix it all together. I have a video on it back in my playlist. This is also sometimes why I have moms have babies at the same time, so that if I need to foster out some of her litter to a smaller litter, I can do that. But what you decide to do is 100% up to you. Hi y'all, welcome back to Bunny Crash Course 101, where I try to explain all the weird words that I use when it comes to rabbits. Starting off with commercial meat breeds. Commercial meat breeds are rabbits that are specifically bred for meat purposes. They get up to 5 pounds between 8 and 10 weeks. Two of the most popular breeds of meat rabbits are Californians and New Zealand whites. Next, we have a fryer. A fryer is a young rabbit under the age of 10 weeks, between 3.5 and 5.5 pounds, who is ready for the meat market. And finally, meat pen. Meat pen is a group of 3 rabbits under the age of 10 weeks, between 3.5 and 5.5 pounds. So the easy answer of this question is just not long. I don't have many cage spaces, and I'm always trying to improve onto better stock, so it's not best in most cases to keep an animal around for very long. Meaning if I have a doe and her daughter is better than her, I would rather use that space to keep the daughter. The same is true with bucks. So I sell a lot of our does as proven stock, and that's because I will breed her once or twice, and then at a year old, she doesn't really fit the program anymore. And that's because she's constantly improving my stock through our breeding program, so I have somebody better than her to replace her. My bucks I might keep a little longer, 2 to 3 years, as long as they're improving my lines. I do a lot of line breeding where I breed my main bucks back to their daughters, and I'll do that for 3-4 generations. But if I have a buck that is proving to be better than one of my main breeding bucks, then he'll replace that buck. The goal in a rabbitry is to breed better and better, so you don't want to keep your stock for very long because you have better to replace it. Alright, so breeding your closely related rabbits together is called line breeding. Some breeders really like it, some breeders don't. This is the chart that I use as a reference when it comes to line breeding. So your first generation at the very top, rabbit number 1 and 2, are your very first breeding pair. When you breed them together, you get rabbit number 3, which is your second generation. Depending if that's a buck or a doe, you would breed it back to the mom or the dad to get generations 5 or 4. And then you would go down and down and down, back and back and back, and just follow these lines for your line breeding. Following the chart is simple, but picking your rabbits for the chart is a little more difficult. So with rabbits, line breeding can give you the very best of the best, but it can always give you the worst of the worst as well. Because you're kind of putting in place those genetics. So with line breeding, you're going to take the best of a litter to breed back to their parents, while also keeping in mind what the weaknesses of your line are. So for instance, this is one of my 8-week-old babies that I'm starting to evaluate as whether or not I'm going to keep them or not. If this was an older animal and I wanted to breed it back to its parent, I would look to see what good factors I wanted to keep. So I don't like this one's shoulder, it's a little long. So I would not breed it back to its parent because they also have a long shoulder. Instead, if I were to keep this, which I'm not going to, but if I were to keep this animal, I would breed it to my best of show buck, who has a really great shoulder. Also with my caster lines, I know that my casters as babies are very light, and as they get older, they'll darken up. But if this bunny weren't to darken up, I wouldn't want to breed her into a caster line like her father's, because it would ruin the rufous that I have going on in that line. The rufous being how dark the outer layer is on this caster. This is a different example for evaluation from a different litter. This is a buck about 10 weeks. The barn kind of washes him out a bit because of the lights I have, but he has a beautiful chocolate color. Now, holding him for evaluation, I like his shoulder a lot compared to his mother, but I do like his mother's depth and high point more. So if I would have kept him back to breed him, my goal would have been to get the shoulders off of this buck while getting the depth and high point off the mom through line breeding. So yeah, line breeding, I can go into more depth and everything, but that's kind of like a general overview and idea of kind of why you would do line breeding and the purpose of it. So I can't find the comment, but somebody yesterday asked me what breeds I have, and I thought I would break down for you all the breeds I have and what we use them for. First, we have Mini Rex. These guys are my passion project. Mini Rex are what got me into bunnies in the first place, so I have a special place in my heart for them. I use these guys mostly for shows, and probably have way too many of them. These guys are mainly used, besides us showing, we sell them to local 4-H'ers, and they help offset our feed costs throughout the years. Next, we have Californians. These guys are meat rabbits. That's really all we use them for. We're working on our show lines right now. Our main focus in the beginning was to get them as big as possible, as fast as possible for butchering, and now we're working on getting them show ready so that they are proven as show animals as well as meat animals. Next, we have Rex. If you are from the European rabbit clubs, these are known as standard Rex. These were supposed to replace my Mini Rex, and they are dual purpose for meat and fur, and I also show these guys. This is my favorite buck, Alpha. Next we have Silver Fox, and these are a group of rabbits that I'm trying to use to replace our Californians. We're also getting these guys ready for show, but hopefully they'll be a good replacement for Californians because I like their attitude way more than Californians. My Californians are a little flighty, and I just don't like that. I like cuddly bunnies. And I just got into this breed. These are Champagne des Argents. I just got a breeding pair, so I don't have very many. The doe is due soon. This is my Moose Nan. And honestly, this is just another show rabbit that I am trying to replace Californians with, because I'm just looking for something that grows out just about as well, but maybe is a less crazy version of a meat rabbit. Some of these Californians are just weirdos. Like, they like to lunge and they like to bite, and I don't like it. So I'm looking for something that's a little sweeter and easier to handle that I can take to shows in replacement for my other meat rabbits. So I had to go through all of my ledgers and check everything because all of my animals are supposed to be sufficient on their own to pay for their feed. But sometimes the rabbits pay for the horses or the quails pay for the horses because my horses are a bunch of freeloaders. So it just kind of took me a minute to separate all the feed costs and look at my ledgers. So here's what I came up with. Every bag of feed that I buy for my rabbits is about $18, and I need 2 bags of feed per month. That's about $36. And then my rabbits go through half a bale of hay per month. My bales of hay right now are $13.50. Divide that by 2, it's about $6.75 a month. So per month, my rabbits cost me $42.75 to feed, meaning I only have to sell one rabbit a month for my rabbit hutch to be sustainable. With that being said, if I take $42.75 times it by 12, my rabbits cost me $513 a year to feed. So we currently have 20 breeders. When it comes to grow outs and kits and everything, I'd have to go back and recount. But if they're under 6 months, I don't count them because most of the time they're just going to go into freezer camp. When it comes to housing, I make sure that I have 2 empty cages for grow outs per doe, so I have one for boys and one for girls. We keep those empty cages on a strict schedule with our butchers. That way we never run out of spaces. With that being said, I have 3 very large cages in our spare barn to put grow outs in if need be, and then we have multiple colony-style pens if we have to. These are the feeders we use when it comes to grow outs. This holds about 1.5 pounds of grain, and normally by the time when we come out for our nightly feed, there's just enough in the bottom of it still. But we can always do 3 feedings a day for the grow outs if we need to fill them up at lunch. They also have access to free hay as well, that way they can munch on it. So yesterday we were cleaning out the quail cages, and I thought that I would show you this trick we use. Because cleaning bird poop off the ground is a pain in the butt. So we have this plastic kind of flooring on the bottom of our grow out cages, and it is perfect to use a hoe on to kind of scrape and take off all of that. And this makes cleaning out these cages really, really easy in comparison to like using anything else. This is Blue. She's one of our mamas that just gave birth, so I just pulled her from her cage so that I can check her over and give her a quick nail trimming. As with all of my rabbits, after they give birth, I check her vent, her teeth, her ears, just to make sure she's in good condition. She is molting right now, so her coat does look kind of crappy, but hopefully that goes away within the next couple of weeks. As I do with all of my rabbits when I'm trimming nails, I just flip her over and blow into her face, just to put her into a catatonic state so that she doesn't wiggle as I am trimming her nails. Sometimes I'll go over a nail twice, because I can always cut them shorter, but I'm always nervous about cutting them down to the quick. Nail trimmings don't take me very long, maybe a minute or so if I'm moving fast. I'll do this about once a month on each of my rabbits, or at a very important life event such as right before a doe is getting bred, sales, or shows. I prefer doing it on their back compared to if they were flipped over because this is easier on the rabbit and it's also quicker and you're less likely to have a wiggly rabbit. Blue did super good for this, and her nails were getting a little long because I hadn't been handling her to do her nails since she was pregnant. What you see on her nails is about a month's worth of growth. After I'm done with a nail trimming, I will just easily flip the animal over and provide it a little bit of comfort before I put it back in its cage. So I personally do not trim rabbits' nails while they're pregnant. In fact, I try to handle my rabbits as little as possible while they're pregnant. Anything invasive such as cleaning cages, moving them around, or changing up their day-to-day, I try to avoid. But it's mostly because I just don't want to cause any kind of stress to a doe while she's pregnant. Which is why I always trim before a breeding and then a couple of days after they have their babies. So somebody in my comment section got really upset at the audacity that I had to not keep my rabbits on bedding. So let's talk about why I don't use it. Bedding harbors all kinds of nasty. And we're just not talking about diseases and bacteria that rabbits commonly carry, because they definitely carry quite a lot if you're not using the right kind of bedding. Bedding can carry ear mites, fur mites. If you're getting your hay from a non-reputable source, it can carry RHVD too. If you don't use the right kind of bedding or it's not kiln dried, you can actually kill your rabbits. Not to mention, if you're not cleaning it out on a daily basis, you can give your rabbits things like urine burns, pneumonia, sniffles, all kinds of yuck. And you can argue with me all day, well, just keep your bedding clean. clean your cages more. And true, you are right, I could do that. But it takes me to clean all of those cages out 2 hours. And I have other animals to take care of. I have an entire farm to take care of. And we're not just talking about my family and my kids and the meals I need to prepare and the work I need to do inside the house. The business side of things, like the ledgers and the taxes and all of that. I would be doing my animals a disservice by putting them on bedding. In their crates, they are easy to clean, easy to care for. They are healthier in the setup. And Lord forbid something does break out in my barn. Those crates that I have them in currently, their cages, are easy to bleach down and clean. If I had something with a wood bottom or a metal bottom, it would be a lot harder to dig that bedding out and bleach everything down and let it dry. A lot of breeders, if they have wooden anything, will just burn them when they have any kind of outbreak. So yeah, I don't use bedding. The closest you'll see me come to it is when I'm lining my nest boxes for babies. And I wouldn't do that either if I didn't have to. Those nest boxes get disgusting. But I'd love to hear your input in what you do. If you're a breeder that raises rabbits, do you use bedding? And if so, what kind of bedding? What kind of routine do you have to make sure that that area stays sanitary? So if you're talking about sanitizing my nesting boxes, I sanitize them before and after every litter. I'll do that with a water and bleach solution and let them dry. If you're talking about when they're actually in the nesting box with babies, I just wait until like 3 to 4 weeks, depending on if it's winter or summer, when they are done using it. Those nesting boxes get pretty gross. But I also don't want to risk moving everything around, losing the hair, putting new material in there and the mom rejecting it. So I haven't found a good way to like sanitize at like the 1 or 2 week mark after the babies start getting bigger. So for now, I just sanitize before and after.